welcome to United Hour, your one-stop shop for all things Manchester United. I'm your host, Nick.
I'm Ashwin.
And I'm Jamie.
Oh yeah, we haven't had three for a while, so yeah, I think you were wondering about the hierarchy there, weren't you? Yeah, but yeah, three of us are here. We are on Monday. It is Bank Holiday Monday. I don't know. Do you have a bank holiday over there in USA, Ashwin?
No, I don't. What's the bank holiday there?
Unlucky. Yeah, here it's the first Monday in May is a holiday. And in fact, I say here, but I'm actually sat here at the moment in Marrakesh, where it is also a holiday. So yeah, unlucky to you Americans. Tough luck. No holidays for you. But yeah, we watched our match. We will talk about our match yesterday against Aston Villa. A good win, 3 points. We will also talk about a less good draw against Spurs midweek. Look ahead to a couple of the matches coming up, and also have a quick kind of update on what's happening with Man United women, what's happening with the takeover, contracts and that kind of thing. But look, let's dive straight into this Villa game. Jamie, I'll say that we have to say that, yeah, the Spurs game was on Thursday. We'll chat about that kind of after the Villa game. I know we had quite a lot of kind of disagreement in our WhatsApp chat after that Spurs game about how kind of negative and what exactly it meant for our top four hopes. And I know not just yourself, there was you, there was Imran, who was starting to get a bit tetchy about especially Liverpool, whereas me, I think Ed, and I don't exactly know where you are on it, Ashwin, but we'll get into it. We're feeling that, look, 1 point away to Spurs isn't so bad. We're still in a pretty good position and still feeling pretty upbeat about our top four hopes. But yeah, we said on the last podcast that these three next games were going to be Spurs, Villa, Brighton, who are all the teams who are just behind us. So there were kind of 6 pointers in a way in this top four race. So yeah, we come out with 4 points from these two over here. I know you were a bit negative, Jamie, after the Spurs game, but now that 3 points from Villa must make you feel a bit better, right?
Yeah, definitely. It's not even so much that I was negative to the extent I thought we'd fall right out the top four. I was just really concerned that even in games where we've played well, we don't score enough goals. And that's why I was just trying to point out, even in our chat, that look, compared even to, if you don't ignore Arsenal, ignore Man City, but if you even just look at the teams around us like Brighton, Newcastle and Liverpool, the number of times they score 3 or more goals in a game, quite frankly, is 4, 5, 6 times more than we have this season. That's just in the league. And not only that, that's not just 3 goals, that's them scoring 5, 6, 7, 9 for Liverpool in one game. So it was just to point out, look, the first half performance was excellent against Spurs. 2-0 up, couldn't really ask for a lot more, except you were like, probably could be 3-0 up here. But that lack of a ruthless streak, I was just worried might cost us, because as we've seen, not just with Liverpool in the last couple of games, certainly yesterday, the luck's with them, they're scoring goals still, they're conceding, which is probably going to let them down in the end. It was just to point out, this isn't quite done and dusted yet. We're not quite over the line yet. There is still risk involved. And I was concerned that, again, the lack of goal scoring was going to really let us down. There are reasons for that, such as Mason Greenwood's situation, Ronaldo leaving, Martial's been unavailable most of the season, and even when he is, we're not really sure how fit he is. We've only got Weghorst in on loan. We haven't been able to actually go and get another established striker, which isn't great. So we've needed players to step up a bit, and while they have in parts, they've not done it enough. So it's just the goal scoring. But the Villa game yesterday was another really good performance, and I think probably will now just about see us over the line. But again, it's more just the element of risk that's still attached to how we play.
Yeah, personally, I'm not worried at all about top four. That kind of 3 games in a row we won just before going to Wembley against Brighton made me feel pretty comfortable. That Spurs result was very disappointing just because how it started versus how it ended. But yeah, I'd say now this Villa game and our home form in general, I think will see us over the line. Our away form is still a major issue, and we will talk about that.
Yes.
I think we all know that we're in desperate need of a new striker, if not even two. Yeah, maybe even two. You know, at the moment, Martial is kind of back, but not playing that much. And in fact, he didn't start either of these two games, which I was like slightly surprised by. Wasn't surprised to see him rested against Spurs, but then I was surprised to see us go 2 games in a row without Martial starting. But yeah, we have been massively reliant on Marcus Rashford, and thank God that he's out still banging them in, still been doing for us all season, basically. I mean, Ashwin, where were you on like before this Villa game? As I said, and it wasn't just Jamie, it wasn't Imran. They were the kind of the ones in our discussion group. I've seen it on Red Cafe where a lot of fans started going, "Oh, listen, we're going to be dropping points. Liverpool are coming." People were starting to get a bit kind of touchy.
Are you sure it wasn't Jamie and Imran on Red Cafe too?
No, I did see
Well,
quite a few United fans, whether Twitter, whether Red Cafe, after that result. I thought there was a bit of an overreaction, really. Like, yeah, you know, I was obviously massively disappointed to come out of that game with a draw. We were 2-0 up and cruising at half time.
But I think, like, I mean, some of this is just the limitations of the squad. Like, if you told me before the season we would be in this position, having won a trophy, going to an FA Cup final with the squad we have, with no major addition. I mean, I guess if you want to call Sabitzer and Weghorst as major additions in January, sure, but really no major additions in January. Ronaldo leaves, right? Like all these things. And how many matches has Martial even played, right? He's missed a bunch of time. So if you told me all that, I would have said, that's great. Like this seems great. Like the Spurs one is a weird one. To me, it looked like you played Sunday at Wembley. You play 120 minutes. It's not just the physical toll. There's an emotional toll, right?
Yeah,
you
penalties as well. It's more than 120 minutes because there's another half hour of penalties and
Right. It's a lot you're doing there. Then you go back to Manchester and then you come back to London for the match on Thursday. There's a lot going on there. To me, like, and I think you can get through that first 45. You don't feel it, right? But then you go into the dressing room, you sit down for 15 minutes, right? It's hard to like get it back. And I think you saw that at the start of the second half, especially Wan-Bissaka. To me, he looked exhausted. He wasn't even getting out to Perisic a few times. And that was one of the subs, I think, that would have been one of the first subs that he did make in the match was he took Wan-Bissaka out. So I think there's a fatigue element there, emotionally and physically, and that showed up. And like Spurs, it's not just this match. All season, they have been horrible in the first half, and then they come on the second half, and they're always better in the second half. They did it against Liverpool again yesterday, right? This is what they've done all season. So I think there's something to that. Also, obviously, they have a new manager. You know, he probably lit them up at halftime. It is what it is. It was a disappointing result. I didn't think it was horrific. We've built enough of a comfortable position where you can afford a blip, right? It happens. As long as you don't string together 3 or 4 of these. Oh, basically, if you don't pull an Arsenal, you'll be okay. But
well, Spurs and Arsenal, as I say, there's something in the water in North London for sure. I mean, we have to mention this crazy Spurs result yesterday. Like, I think I'd said before that game, Jamie, I said if this is a draw, then surely that's our top 4 done. Everybody in the group said Liverpool are going to annihilate Spurs. And after like 15 minutes, it was 3-0, and people were saying it's going to be 6, 7, 8, 9. And I was like, look, wait and see. And then, I was watching this, not expecting much. They get to 1. They get to 2. Then they hit 3 and then did the most Spursy thing ever to throw it away. Absolutely ridiculous. I mean, I don't want to go into the details of that game because, I think probably Jota should have had a red card before he scores his winner over there. But
it's also, they had all the momentum too. That's what made it even
more hilarious.
Madness. But look, Liverpool, I know that's why Imran says Liverpool are the most jammy team. They get these random results. That's why I'm still worried about them coming, but I'm not.
We need 9 points. We need 9 points. If we can't get 9 points, we don't deserve top 4.
And we're 7 points ahead with a game in hand. I mean, the bookies have us as massive, massive favourites. As far as the bookies are concerned, top four is done. It is Newcastle, it is us. The only thing that needs to be decided is who's third and who's fourth. And Liverpool, I think,
that doesn't even matter anymore for like third and fourth doesn't matter anymore. You get like, because back in the day, fourth, you had to play a qualifying round. That's over now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it doesn't really
don't do that anymore. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's just a bit more pride and
it'd be nice to finish
whatever. But yeah, as I said, for me, top four is done. I know some fans are still slightly worried. Liverpool do have an easier run in. They are in good form. I mean, we're talking about Liverpool. We will talk towards the end of the show about our next game is against Brighton. If Brighton win their games in hand, they'll be fifth. They've got a couple of games in hand on Liverpool. If they win those, they'll be fifth as well. So yeah, we shouldn't discount Brighton. But yeah, these two games, Spurs, I think Spurs we can now more or less discount after a draw with us and a loss yesterday. Villa, people were talking about them coming strong. They were absolutely the form team. They've had an absolute crazy run of form since Unai Emery came in. The best form of anyone this kind of year. They had not lost a game. They had not gone a game without scoring. So we kept a clean sheet. We beat them. I think people might even underestimate how good this win was for us. The first game he's lost since he's come in there. It was only 1-0. I think XG kind of shows that was more or less a fair result. I think we're at like 1.3 and they're at 0.5 or something like that. But yeah, I think that about makes sense to me. He did make a couple of changes, the manager. I think he needed to rotate the pack a bit, a little bit of freshness. Malacia comes in, Sabitzer comes in. It totally changed our right side. You mentioned it, Jamie, that Aaron Wan-Bissaka was looking absolutely dead. Anthony as well does a lot of hard work for the team. So he changed that solid right-hand side that's been really good for us recently. I was actually a little bit worried about this, that I saw all of a sudden he'd taken out Wan-Bissaka and Anthony and put in Dalot and Bruno. I'm never that happy to see Bruno out wide. I think we lose kind of a lot when he does play there. But yeah, look, we can't argue with the manager because in the end, Bruno's the one who scored the goal. He's done it coming in from the right-hand side and it's the goal that makes all the difference. But yeah, I mean, I think we deserve this win, right, Ashwin? It was a good performance and, you know, the Spurs was a good first half as well. We went there, but yeah, I think we absolutely deserve this win against Villa.
Yeah, no, we were great. Defensively, we had them locked down the entire time. Actually, the best defensive moment didn't even count, right? Lindelof with the clearance off the line because that was ruled offsides in the buildup. Yeah, I thought that was a spectacular performance, especially considering, you know, you played Thursday, short turnaround. Villa has been, I think they've been second in the form table since Emery came in. So you're playing a team that's been red hot in form.
They've actually been first in the form table, but only because they played more games than City in the same period. But yeah,
and also because Arsenal are playing in Arsenal now. But sorry, I have to get in my digs right
every time.
But yeah, we played exceptionally well. I thought defensively, in attack, it was a little bit more. I would say I thought we had opportunities and we didn't fully capitalize on them, both in terms of creating chances and then finishing the chances we did create. But you weren't going to get a lot of. I mean, again, they've been, like you said, they've been first in the form table. They've been playing very, very well. So expecting us to just come out and, you know, blow them away, I think is a bit much, considering the fact that you don't have Martinez anymore, right? He's out for the year. You know, you're starting Malacia at left back, who's been okay this year, but I think of late has actually been in bad form. All of that, Casemiro, probably his best performance in a while. He was really, really good on Sunday. And, you know, Bruno plays on the right. I felt like he just gave Anthony a rest more than it was any, you know, disciplinary type of thing.
He said pretty much, Erik ten Hag, that this is tactical and it's not just about giving players rotation and rest. I'm not sure so much of it was. I think maybe he was saying that just to give that push, you know, not say to the players he's dropping out that, look, I'm just leaving you out because you need a rest.
Yeah, and you know what, maybe he wants more from Anthony and that's his way of doing it. That's fine also. But considering the changes he did make and everything, yeah, it was a really, really good performance. I was happy that Bruno scored because he did miss that chance against Spurs, which that went from being maybe one of our best goals of the season to being the miss of the season. But but his finish. I mean, he got a bit of luck, but the fact that he was following that up, that's that desire that I think isn't always there from our attacking players who aren't naturally inclined to go, run into the box. And I actually thought Rashford was guilty of that a few times in against Villa, where he didn't make runs into the box, into the 6-yard box, where he would have had potentially, chances to get tap-ins or get on the end of a cross or get a rebound or whatever it was. So for Bruno to do that and get that goal, I think that was really good for him. And then obviously the way we saw it, the match was good. I could have done without Bruno's last minute decision to do whatever that was at the halfway line and give the ball away. But all things considered, that was a pretty, maybe not dominant because the attacking play, whatever, but we deserved to win, and they really didn't create anything of note in the match.
Yeah, as I said, the XG was massively in our favor, 1.3 and only 0.4 for them. So yeah, shows we did totally deserve to. I thought they were kind of looked slightly dangerous on the break. There was a couple of times they kind of got in good positions, but there wasn't that many saves or anything De Gea had to make. There was one I remember latish on that he kind of pulled out. I thought as well, like early on, we created a lot of half chances, nothing absolutely clear. I think there was one for Rashford, Casemiro hit the bar. So there was a couple of kind of like half things here and there. But I did think we deserved to go in at that break 1-0. It felt like we'd played well enough to do that and keep them out there. And then, I mean, the match did go kind of squeaky bum time towards the end. It wasn't like an easy ride at all. Towards the end, it was getting a bit frantic. I do want to talk about Erik ten Hag's substitutions. I'm not questioning him. He's had a brilliant first season. He is the one. We're fully behind him. But not just this week, a little bit recently, there's been a few subs where I've been a little bit like, not so sure about that. In this game in particular, Anthony comes in and ends up playing on the left side, which I literally don't think he's ever played for us on the left side. I automatically thought Bruno was going to come back inside and he's going to end up on the right. But no, he left Bruno where he was. Also bringing in Maguire late on, changing kind of 3 at the back. I'm never that happy about, and I'm not just about Maguire, all right? I know a lot of people have issues as soon as they see Maguire taking his training kit off. I know people start having palpitations. But for me, it's more about kind of late changes to like formation and all. I'm always not that comfortable with it. He also made quite a bit of shift arounds in that Spurs game where, Malacia came in, he moves Dalot from left to right, and Malassi's in at the left side, and it was in the end from the right side that Son ended up getting the equaliser. I don't know where you're at, Jamie. What do you think about his kind of in-game management? Was something we always talked about with Ole. It was one of my biggest criticisms of Ole, even though I was the one who was still supporting Ole all the time, all the way through. But one of my big criticisms was always in-game management. I mean, Ten Hag doesn't have the same issue of, I thought Ole always left his subs too late and kind of always just went light for light a bit too much. And here I sometimes think Ten Hag's trying to shift around things a bit too much at times. I don't know what you think about that.
No, it's a fair enough assessment because it's not like he's been doing it all season. Because if you look, I don't have the stat to hand, but I'm pretty sure with regards to goals scored by subs, we must be pretty high. Where the first, say, 2/3 of the season, he was making changes from the bench, whether it was Garnacho coming on or Anthony coming on or whoever, and they were having a direct impact in the game, whether it was a goal or an assist or just positively impacting the game, getting us back on the front foot. So for a long time through the season, we were looking at his subs thinking, yeah, these are good, these are proactive, these are maybe periods of the game he's identified were a bit short in midfield or whatever it is, and he's acted. It's only recently, say in the last 5 or 6 games, so sometimes it just seems a bit unnecessary. Some of the subs, as you said, like I get to an extent bringing on another defender when you think the other team's in the ascendancy, but I'm never comfortable with that because if you've played 2 centre halves the entire game, they've been so, and this is the bottom line. Shaw and Lindelof have been solid, and were absolutely solid yesterday. And Lindelof's proved, certainly the last 3 games, how good a defender he is and how dependable he is. And again, same as you, I'm not just wanting to jump on Maguire. because it's fashionable. But I just think he comes on and it just disrupts everybody. He's so short of confidence. I think he genuinely causes issues with other players, and other players panic a little bit. So whenever he brings him on, I'm just uneasy because I know he's not confident, Maguire. It then transmits to the other players and makes it a bit uncertain. You're then potentially changing the tactics with barely any time to go, which could disrupt the rhythm. Changing a left back to right back, it sounds simple and it should work in theory and on Football Manager and what have you. But again, that's not easy because if you played left back for 80 minutes and then you're just told, right, go to the other side and go and mark the other player and go and totally change how you've been playing, that can take a little bit of adjustment. And if it's dead late in the game, it can, again, be quite disruptive. And things like that just seem a bit unnecessary. I don't know if he's doing it to make a point or if he thinks that whoever it is that he's making a change to their position, if he's making a point to them, as if to, I don't know, buck up their ideas or trying them in a different position. Like you're saying about Bruno standing on the right wing and he said it's tactical. I don't know if it was, but maybe it was just something he thought, look, if we're short one time, I could try Bruno on the right wing and that's what we're going to do. I don't know what it is with some of his subs because, as I said, like, if it's a tactical one like that, it just seems unnecessary a lot of the time, especially in games when we're only up 1-0 or it's level and we're chasing the game. I just don't really agree with that. But on the other side of it, we do need to keep making subs because, as you said, the players are knackered. You can see it sometimes, they look absolutely knackered. And rather than just leave them out there, it's as if he's sometimes just thinking, I need to get them off because they can barely run, they can barely press, they can barely mark. Just get another body on the pitch for that player. And I'm always kind of caught in that situation with Ten Hag, trying to work out, is it because he thinks somebody's just dead on their feet and just can't do anything else? Or is it because he's seen something that he thinks tactically he needs to change? But again, he's the manager, but just sometimes it just seems a bit unnecessary.
I do agree with you that I didn't have much issue with a lot of his subs earlier in the season. It's just something that's happened in the last month or two where sometimes, and I think it's about when we're kind of winning as well, and he changes formation completely, where I'm sometimes like, is that really necessary? I can always understand fresh legs coming in, especially like you say, some of our players are definitely running on empty after an absolute mental schedule they've had this season. But look, at the same time, as I say, look, we've won this game. We've come out 1-0. So, yeah, we can't complain too much. We will actually take a quick break there and then come back for part 2 of the show. Back for part 2 of United Hour podcast. So, yeah, we are talking about that Villa win. One player I wanted to just have a quick chat about is Marcel Sabitzer. He's obviously on loan at the moment. He started this game and has started a few games recently. I said a few weeks ago that, for me, the jury was still out on him. He hadn't played that much, but now we have seen a bit more of him. He's got a couple of important goals here and there, a couple of assists. There's definitely something about him. I'm still in the jury still out thing on him, though, and I'm talking about, would we want to sign this player permanently and long term? Ashwin, do you think he's a player we should be keeping hold on going on from the summer?
Not particularly. If you're gonna keep him, then you should sell Fred, and that's fine. But to me, that's like to me, he's a squad quality player. That's good. I mean, that's not bad. But wouldn't your money be used better going to like really up? You should be targeting somebody who comes in and you feel confident is challenges for a starting 11 role. When we're fully healthy and Sabitzer's not pushing anybody for a starting 11 role. Like he's not better than Bruno at 10. He's not, and Ten Hag himself doesn't seem to trust him very much playing deeper next to Casemiro in the Eriksen role, and he's not Casemiro. So I don't particularly get that. It feels like a big game of musical chairs where you're maybe selling Fred and then you're bringing in Sabitzer, and that's just Okay, cool. I'm not sure what it does. Now, if you sell McTominay and you want to bring him in, I can see that. But ultimately, we still like whether we keep Sabitzer or we don't bother. He's just such a lower priority thing to worry about. We need two midfielders that can properly challenge for starting 11 positions. One at Casemiro's spot and one at Eriksen's spot. And without that, I'm not sure, I just it just doesn't really matter to me, I guess. It's maybe the most the most simplistic way to put it. Like I like Sabitzer. I think he's fine. I think he's done a commendable job so far this season when he's come in. And obviously, he had those 2 goals against Sevilla, and it's unfortunate that we lost that tie, obviously, but he's shown something. There is like some value to having him around. He gets about. I think he is ready for the physical side of the Premier League. That's good, but ultimately, like, I'm not sure I see much there to make me think he really pushes the squad further. Like, say what you want about Frankie De Jong, whether it makes sense to go for him or not, but that if we sign him, he's 100% starting next year, and he challenges the team, he pushes it to a different level. That's the type of player. Those are the targets we need to have. Players that have that potential or are already at that level. Like I've mentioned him in our chat since the start of the year, but I think Lavia at Southampton, he's somebody I would love to sign. I think he's somebody you can develop, and he's not ready to take over for Casemiro, but he's the type of player that maybe in 2-3 years, as Casemiro's getting older and you want to phase him out, maybe that's his time to step in. But those are like that's what I'm more interested in. I think Sabitzer's fine, but again, to me, it's like him, Fred, McTominay. How much of a difference is there in all these guys? I think I'm not a big McTominay fan, but ultimately, you're talking about squad players. We need to be worried about starting 11 players.
Yeah, fair enough. And yeah, it's true as well that a lot of our midfield is kind of maybe past their prime. Casemiro's 31, Eriksen's 31, Fred is 30. McTominay's the only one who's on the younger side. Jamie, Sabitzer, yes or no?
I'll say yes, but I do agree with a lot of what Ashwin said, that between Sabitzer, Fred, and McTominay, there's not a great deal. I do think Sabitzer's a greater goal threat. He seems a bit more clever in that role, and I thought he actually had a good understanding with Rashford, especially in that Sevilla game, and he reads the game quite well. But if you're being ruthless about it, as Ashwin said, is he better than Bruno at 10? No, he's not Casemiro's type of player at all. Is he as good as Eriksen at getting his foot on the ball and keeping it? No. But again, it is about depth, and I'm slightly more towards if you're going to sell Fred, yes, I would go for him, because every source I can see with regards to how much it would be to buy him, you're talking about 15 million euros. And I do agree, we absolutely need a couple of midfielders. They absolutely have to be right elite level quality. But as we've seen this season as well, we have struggled when squad players have come in because squad players aren't good enough. And as much as I say there isn't much between them, I do think Sabitzer's better, and I would rather have him available. And I do think he's quite physical. He's good at that side of it. He's prepared to get stuck in. He is more of a goal threat, as I said. So I would probably err on that side. But I would qualify that by saying I think if he was to stay, I would expect at least Fred or McTominay to go.
Yeah, one player that we don't even mention because he's the kind of forgotten man is Donny van de Beek. He's actually part of our squad. And I know he's a write-off and we don't see much of him. But yeah, he is actually one of our squad players and supposedly part of our squad depth. So if, say, Sabitzer was replacing Donny van de Beek, I don't know, I'd be fine with it. Personally, I don't see a lot of value in replacing Scott McTominay, who's a young player, still got a lot in him, with a 29-year-old Marcel Sabitzer. Fred is a different deal. I don't think Erik ten Hag is the greatest fan of Fred. He hasn't played that much recently, especially since Sabitzer's come in. He seems to favour Sabitzer ahead of Fred. Fred was absolutely disgusting in that Tottenham game when he came on for Eriksen. And I did actually understand that sub at the time. We said had some question marks over Erik ten Hag's substitutions, but I did understand that sub. Tottenham had scored to come 2-1. They were definitely on top of us at that point in the game. We needed something to bring on the kind of, in theory, midfield terrier to kind of try and get at the Tottenham players in midfield. Kind of did make sense, but it did not go that way at all. I mean, Fred just kept giving the ball away again and again, was an absolute liability. And yeah, it was a big part of why we ended up coming out only with 1 point from that game. And yeah, that is what happens with Fred sometimes. You get the bad Fred. You sometimes see the good Fred. We have seen him, even this season, put in man of the match performances. And when he's good, he can be very good. But when he's bad, he's the worst player on the pitch. And that is the biggest problem. And again, like I said, he's not getting any younger at age 30. That is a problem for our midfield going forward. As I said, a couple of 31-year-olds, age 30 there. So yeah, we definitely need some younger players coming in around our midfield. So yeah, it'll be interesting. As I said, Sabitzer has done enough to kind of have a bit of a chat about him. He's definitely a more attacking player. He's a good utility player as well because he can cover several kind of positions. And we should say it's still early days for him. He's still getting used to the team. He's still getting used to the system. So he's done pretty well to get thrown in there. He's certainly more of an option for me than Wout Weghorst, who should not be anywhere near this football club after this summer. Are we all agreed on that now? I think a few weeks ago, I don't know, was it you, Jamie? Somebody was on this podcast saying I'd be happy for him to be here next season. And
no, a couple of weeks ago, I would have said yeah, like maybe even a month ago, whatever it was, up to just after the cup final. But he's just not good enough. He presses as hard as possible, which is fine, but he's just not enough of a threat. He really is just not enough of a threat. And ultimately, again, going back to Ashwin's point, we have to be more ruthless in this team. And as much as, yeah, I admire his ethic, I like his shithousery as well. I don't think we've got enough players in the team that are good at that. I like how much he clearly likes playing for us. That endears him as well. But the quality's just not there. As hard as he tries and what have you, it's just not there. And yeah, we need to be more ruthless, and his spot could easily be taken by whoever we want to, whether that's a young striking talent, or even if you were looking for somebody to just come in and do a job for a couple of years, you can get better than him.
Yeah, and I think most of us are pretty agreed on that at this point. I do want to give a shout out, like I said, to Man United women. We obviously just beat Villa 1-0. They also played Aston Villa on Friday, and it was an absolute crazy game, actually. Villa were winning 1-0, then Villa were winning 2-1. Then with a 94th minute header, we won that game. Header from Millie Turner. We are now sitting top of the Women's Super League, 3 points ahead of Manchester City. There is only 3 games left for us. So, yeah, 3 points at the top. But Chelsea are in third, have 3 matches in hand. If they won them all, they would go ahead of us, 2 points ahead of us. So we're sat in a very good position. There's still actually a possibility, though, that we end up coming fourth. So, yeah, we could come first, we could come fourth, as we said a few weeks ago. But, yeah, that win felt like a bit, to me, like a kind of name on the cup kind of win. An absolute mega one, like I said, after being down twice, to come in with a last-minute winner feels like something is happening around this women's team. I know, though, Jamie, that you mentioned we'd had Natalie on the podcast a few weeks ago. We will get her back on again. But, you know, it has been a bit strange that around Twitter and things like that, there's still quite a lot of negativity about our women's manager, Mark Skinner. Even though we're having the best season in the history of Manchester United women, we are in the cup final against Chelsea, which I will be going to. And we're top of the league at the moment. But there's still a lot of the women's kind of supporters who kind of don't seem that happy with our manager, right?
Yeah, and to be fair, it doesn't just seem like the supporters of the women's team. It also seems to be there's some uncertainty and a bit of iffiness, if you like, coming from some of the players. So Mary Earps, best goalie in the world, as she's just been formally announced as a couple of weeks ago. She was, I can't remember who it was she was doing the interview with, but in the interview, the interviewer put it to her that Skinner had said that, you know, she was a great person and she was a tremendous player. And I can't remember the exact quote, but it was to the effect of, she replied saying, that's fair enough sort of thing, but with him, you never know, clearly referencing Skinner, and then clearly going on to kind of just give overtones of she's not really keen on the manager either. And then I saw Natalie speaking about it on Twitter, and I don't think it's just Mary Earps, to be fair. There's a few players that have said a couple of things that don't exactly give the total 100% feeling on the manager. And as Natalie and other fans have said, they're not totally sold on Skinner either. So when I saw Natalie kind of putting this out there, that interview was there and this is what it was said, I just tweeted saying, that's kind of interesting. And if a player's saying that about a manager, it kind of says it all, really. And then I just said, do you think they're actually doing as well as they are? Because there's a few players feeling this way and they're doing it in spite of the manager rather than for the manager. And she retweeted that and basically said, that could be what's happening. Yeah, the reason that they're playing so well is the actual togetherness between the players, but not necessarily the manager, is what's helping drag them over the line. So I think it will be interesting.
It is interesting. I still find it a little bit strange. As I say, this is the best season ever for Man United women. To get to a cup final, to be top of the league, and to be giving very little credit to the manager is strange. As I say, I don't know as much about some of the people who, watch the team week in, week out and follow everything around it. And we will get Natalie back on as this Women's Super League season comes to an end. But as I say, at the moment, we're top of the league, 3 points clear. Looking forward to the cup final at Wembley in a couple of weeks' time. And yeah, let's see what goes on there. But this summer will be very interesting, as you say. Mary Earps, Alessia Russo, Anya Baja are all out of contract. And I think what happens with them and their contracts will probably tell us a lot about what is the actual real feeling of these players at Man United women at the moment. So yeah, we'll see how that all rolls out. We talked a lot already about that Tottenham game, but yeah, as I say, just to kind of round it off, it was obviously a massive disappointment after we had a brilliant first half. A lovely goal from Jadon Sancho. Jamie, I still remember on this podcast that you were the most excited about signing Jadon Sancho when he came. It's not worked out as brilliantly as we all hoped, but that kind of goal showed what he can do. I think sometimes he plays with himself. Sometimes he takes one or too many touches when he should just be making that cross, when he should be taking that player on, when he should be taking that shot. And this time, when he took that shot early, he got the goal. Even in this Villa game, I remember there was a moment where he beat a man. He could have taken that exact same shot, curled it in to the right side, but he pulled it back in and passed it back, and he does that too much.
Hey, look, Ashley Young is a physical specimen. It's hard to get past him.
Yeah. Ashley Young's still going strong years after leaving us. Still a first choice for them. But as I say, we know that Sancho has all these skills. We know what he can do. He's just not delivering it enough. I do think Erik ten Hag does like him, though. He gave him the start again after getting that goal. As I said, I was kind of surprised. I expected Martial to come in. I expected Rashford to go back left and Sancho to drop out, but he stuck with him after that goal. And, he's not terrible, but he's just not showing enough for me. You must be on the same page now. As I said, I remember you were the most excited about Sancho coming to this club.
Yeah, I'm disappointed for sure because, as you said, the goal in the Tottenham game is literally go back and watch him at Dortmund. That's what he would do. He would get the ball wide, and whether it was on the outside or the inside, drive into the box, and it would be one touch hit, goal, or it would be get his head up so as he's running into the box, there would be a through ball and a goal. Because again, all right, it's not the best barometer as we've seen with the Bundesliga recently, that players who play really well in the Bundesliga don't automatically transmit as being really good in the Premier League. But to have the number of goals and assists he did at Dortmund shows he wasn't just a goal threat. It was how clever he was at driving into the box and finding another player. And I actually thought there was a moment in the game yesterday. He gets the ball out wide, drives as if he's going to drive on the outside. Young kind of pulls across to block the space, but Sancho cuts back in and plays a really good pass into Casemiro, and Casemiro hits the bar. But then he doesn't do it again. That's what frustrates me, is He's done that once, beat his man, found a really good pass in field for a chance for Casemiro. We miss it, but then that doesn't happen again. And then it's the same as the Tottenham game. The goal's really good, and then he has the other chance in the first half against Tottenham where he cuts back in, hits it, and he's unlucky with the deflection that it just happens to be there's a guy in the line, he clears it, but he does it all half. But then it just stops. And I don't know if that's, as you said, he's just playing within himself, if it's a confidence thing and his confidence is building back up. But he can do it. That's what's frustrating. It's not that you don't know what he can do. We know what he can do. It's just as if his confidence just isn't quite there yet, and he's not prepared to consistently drive at his man, to consistently run that channel, get back inside, and have a shot at goal. Even put the defender under a bit of pressure and make him think about what's going to happen. And I wouldn't be adverse, honestly, if there was a really good fee that was being offered by somewhere, because I see that Dortmund's been linked with taking him back, and he seems to be, I don't know if keen on it's the right word, but it does seem to be an option for him. But I just think if he can just show between now and the end of the season a bit more of what he did in the Spurs game, a bit more of what he was doing in the first half yesterday, then there's evidence that there's a lot to work on and he can get back to what he was. But it's frustrating, and I can understand why a lot of fans maybe have had enough of him and maybe think that's the end of the road.
It's not though, right? Like there's no way they're not going to sell him. They're not going to get a bid worth selling him for, because they paid, what did they pay? £75 million for him? Like, you're not going to take a loss on that 2 years into his deal. His wages are pretty high, so I don't think that's really an option. So, like, you have to hope he gets better. I mean, there have been like some glimpses, you see, like
he has scored some important goals. Yeah. He has got some assists. It's not like he's doing nothing at all. He has contributed at certain times. It doesn't seem to be quite enough.
You want to see a match where it's his match.
Yeah.
Like we haven't had that. We haven't had that.
I don't remember him ever being in the man of the match kind of conversation. And a player like that should be.
Yeah, and that's what you need at the top end of the pitch, right? Like, you want all of your attackers to be in that conversation. And some of it, like I guess the best way to put it is this. I think Antony frustrates a lot, but with him, I really do feel like there's a certain level of, he's brave. Like he doesn't fear failure. He doesn't seem to, he'll cut in, he'll take a shot that he shouldn't take. But I think you need to have the confidence to do that and to piss off your teammates who are all like, I'm wide open. Why didn't you give me the ball? And it's like, well, that's a good shot for me. But you need to figure that out. I mean, you need to work on your own, like you have to develop that. And I think with Sancho,
we do need to find the perfect balance between the two of them. It's exactly that. Yeah. Antony takes that shot too often. Sancho doesn't take that shot enough. If we can get that perfect place in the middle, they'll both be hitting the sweet spot. I
would rather have to do it from where, like, I think it's easier to dial it down than dial it up, though.
Yeah.
Like, so so I like, that's why I have a lot of time for Antony. I think his effort is, I think, some of the stuff he does defensively, his work rate is really impressive. And to be fair to Sancho, his work rate has been better. In the last few matches.
Actually. I've seen him chasing back, making that effort. He has actually been doing better on that.
Yeah. So I think he deserves credit for that. And I think there's also, I mean, it's also the fact that we just haven't had an actual right winger forever. So Antony gives us some balance that we've lacked. But with Sancho, you just want to see him, like, you have Ashley Young yesterday. He's 37 years old, and I know he's a good pro, and he takes care of himself, and he's done well for Villa this year. But if I pay £75 million for an attacker, that's a matchup that I expect him to dominate. Like, that should have been a match where every single time we get the ball, everybody is feeding Sancho, because that he has him on toast. And he didn't do it. He did, like your point, like he did play in Casemiro that one time. That was a really nice play. But other than that, like what were the moments that you saw from him yesterday?
Yeah, doesn't do it again.
Yeah, it just has to do it more. And there was that one where I think he got played in right around the box, and he could have checked in and shot it. Instead, he takes it to the byline.
I said that exactly. So it's too many times we see that. So I think we're all more or less on the same page. But I do agree with you, Ashwin. he's not going to be sold because
No, yeah.
nobody is going to pay him the wages that he is on with us. So we just hope he pushes on from where he at. And he's obviously doing much better than where he was a few months ago, where he wasn't even part of the squad. So, yeah, hopefully he can keep going in that kind of direction. We will take another break there before we come back for the last part of the show as we look ahead to the games coming up. Back for part 3 and the final part of this show. Just before we start talking about the next game, which is Brighton and Hove Albion away, wanted to mention that Alejandro Garnacho, we're talking about Sancho's playing more at the moment because Garnacho's obviously been out injured. He thankfully has signed a new contract, 5-year contract, will be with us till 2028. He is also back in training. He also has announced that he's having a baby, even though, as far as I'm concerned, he's a baby himself at
He's
age
a baby
18.
himself, yeah.
But yeah, he's announced, I think a son, Enzo, is due at some point. And I remember Alex Ferguson always used to try and convince young players to settle down early, have children early. It was something he always wanted. So I don't know if Eric Ten Hag has been in the background with Alejandro Garnacho's other half, telling her, listen, no need for any birth control. Let's get you sorted out quick and early so we have a nice family going home. But yeah, I know Alex Ferguson always said this, and he always had problems with certain players, and that's why some of them left the club. Whether it was Lee Sharp and Ryan Giggs and all that earlier in the day, he was always looking at who's going out, where are they out. He had his spies around town. He didn't want players doing too much over there. He wanted them at home. He wanted them with a steady girlfriend, settle down, kids early. So yeah, I don't know if Eric Ten Hag has been going down that road as well. But yeah, look, it'll be great to have him back in the team for this run-in. I think we have missed him, even though, like I say, Sancho's done okay. Garnacho, as a kind of especially player to come in off the bench, had been absolutely brilliant for us. So the sooner we can get him back in the team, the better. But yeah, I don't think he will be ready for this next game yet. He is training. Maybe he might make the bench. But yeah, the next game up is Brighton on Thursday night. I will be going to this game. It's only the 3rd away game I've got this season. I mean, don't know if you guys know, but it's an absolute nightmare to try and get away tickets for Manchester United. You know, we tend to only get 2, maybe 3,000 tickets for every game. And there's probably about 40,000 season ticket holders who can apply for those 2,000 or 3,000 each time. And it's a load go to executives, and it's basically then just a lottery, and you end up getting lucky now and again. Well, I say lucky. One of the other away tickets I got this season was when we got hammered 4-0 off Brentford. So yeah, I wasn't that lucky that day. But yeah, we lost to Brighton on the first game of the season, which was just before that Brentford game. If you remember back, we had the worst start to this season. So to see us now sitting relatively comfortable in top 4 and having won a cup, you know, none of us would have thought that after the first kind of week of this season. But Brighton, after we knocked them out of the FA Cup, got beaten, and then all of a sudden absolutely hammered Wolverhampton Wanderers 6-0 yesterday. They rested a load of players. Mitoma, Caicedo, McAllister, some people might even say are their best 3 players, did not start that game. And yeah, come out with a 6-0 win. As I said, Jamie, I know you were worried about this kind of running of games. So 1 point at Tottenham, 3 points at Villa. We now go away to Brighton. The worst thing about that Tottenham game was before it, everybody was talking about this terrible record we've had away from home. We'd not beaten anybody from the top 7 away from home. The next one, Brighton, are obviously part of that top 7. We are now going there. I thought Tottenham was going to be the one where we broke that 2-0 up at half time, but we still didn't manage it. So yeah, now we go to Brighton, who are in good form, looking for revenge after we beat them at Wembley. Shades of that Newcastle game. You know, we beat Newcastle at Wembley, then we're totally outplayed by them at St. James's Park just like 1 week or 2 weeks later. And a lot of people are predicting similar there. I mean, how are you feeling about this Brighton game, Jamie?
I think it'll be very, very difficult for a number of reasons. The away form rather is the number one with a bullet. Any very good team away from home have really struggled this season. I think going back to the Tottenham game, if Bruno buries that chance where he hits the bar, it's probably 3-1 and that's it, job done. But we don't. we don't then really have any other attempts after that, and we struggle to draw. And it just, out of all the other teams that we've played away from home from the top half, the only time genuinely I think we've played well was the Arsenal game, and we lost that 3-2. And not just that, Brighton are playing really well. I know the 6-0 was impressive, but never even mind that. They've just been very, very good all season, and they've been very good at home. I think they'll be out for a bit of revenge after the FA Cup semi as well. I just think, weirdly enough, defensively, I'm not that worried. Genuinely, I think we'll be okay. I think we'll have enough. It's just going forward, as I said. Like, I just worry that we're going to score enough goals, because it's putting a real kind of doubt in my mind. Not about just making the top four. I'm just like, we're playing some really good teams in this running who are in good form, and we need to be clinical. We need to take our chances, because it's going to be really, really difficult to see us getting a good result otherwise. And I fully expect Thursday to be very, very hard, and probably just try to think of the rest of the games we've got to the end of the season. I think it genuinely could be the hardest game until the FA Cup final.
Yeah, I mean, the next game after that is West Ham, also away. So we are 2 away games in a row now. And as I say, our away record is not good. What's your prediction for the Brighton game, Ashwin?
I think we draw it. I think I'll say 1-1. I think we if we play like we did in the FA Cup against them, which I know that Ten Hag doesn't want to do that, but I think it's encouraging how pragmatic he is, at times anyway. So I think we'll approach that with a similar kind of. I mean, we'll take a similar approach. Looking to be solid in the back and playing more on the counter. I still feel that given our personnel, we still play better when there's space in behind and we can play on the counter. I would like to see Rashford play on the left and Martial start up top. I still feel like that's definitely our best combination. And I'd like to see Anthony on the right. Like, we just haven't gotten a chance to see those three together nearly enough all season. So I would like to see that. And I don't know how much there really is to say. Brighton's been in great form. They easily could have, they could have taken the semifinal for sure. I thought that was a pretty even match. So, it's no joke. And obviously they've been fantastic all year. I think I saw some stat maybe last week where it's like they're one of the top 5 teams in Europe in basically every expected goals against, expected points, all that stuff.
I think they are the number 1 team on chance creation in the top 5 leagues in Europe. Something crazy. There is a crazy stat out there. I think they are the number 1 in the whole of Europe for chance creation, which is absolute madness. And that we kept them to 0-0 at Wembley is brilliant. I also expect to see maybe more of the same as the setup we have there. Brighton had more of the ball that day, and we kind of tried to go at them on the break. I would expect similar. As I say, I am going to this match. So, I'm looking forward to it. It'll be my first ever visit to the Amex Stadium. I mean, Brighton as a club deserve so much credit. They've come from nowhere. I mean, definitely. they were League One when Tony Bloom took over them in 2009 or 10. They were League One. Now they're like a solid Premier League team. How many years have they been in the Premier League? Must be at least 4. If not, is this their 5th season? Something like that. And each year getting better and better, despite selling big players every season. I mean, they got rid of Bissouma, they got rid of Cucurella, they even got rid of Trossard, who was one of their better attackers in the last window, and they still keep rolling on. I think I said on before that Wembley game that they still pull out these random players. The current one now is this Enciso, the young Uruguayan, who comes from absolutely nowhere. They paid pittance for him, and he got like 2 assists just yesterday. Don't know how they do it. As I say, big credit to Tony Bloom. If people don't know who he is, the owner of Brighton, he's actually a professional gambler. That's how he's made all his money, right? He was a poker player. Like, you can go back, see his history, the World Series of Poker. That's where he's built his fortune from. Then he became part of some very like shadowy professional gambling syndicate who made enough money to buy Brighton Football Club.
Should we ask him what he thinks about top 4 odds?
Hey, he takes those odds, chews them up, and spits them out. But yeah, it's a brilliant story. Like I say, it is a brilliant story, and yeah, fair play to them. I say, I'm looking forward to go down to the Amex Stadium for my first time. Let's see. I'll be happy to come out of there with a point.
It's supposed to be a good ground too, right?
Yeah, it's newish. Like I said, they've rebuilt it there. I think it's quite out of town, and I've been told it's a bit of a headache to get in and out of. But yeah, I'll find that out on Thursday night, I guess. But yeah, look, fair play to Brighton, as I say, the job they've done there, even losing managers, losing players, and still rolling on and going for their best season ever. But yeah, we need to stop them have any hopes of top 4. I'll be, like I say, happy to come out of this with a point. The only other thing I did forgot to talk about when we were talking about the Villa game was the pre-match protest. Obviously, there's still a lot of takeover talk going on. We did have the final bids last Friday. We know that Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Ineos put in a bid, and so did Sheikh Jassim, the Qatari sheikh, put in his bid. Still not clear what exactly is going on. It's now 6 months since the Glazers said they were exploring options of selling the club, bringing in investment. We don't at the moment seem any closer to any kind of end game. The 1958 fan group had called this protest because of these delays, also because of kind of a lot of stories out there now saying that the Glazers are trying to find ways to bring in finance but still stay in some capacity, maybe in a minority way. They might retain some kind of ownership. We hear there's 6 Glazer siblings who all own shares. 2 of them in particular, it seems, Joel and Avram, have an interest in staying long term, whereas it looks like the other 4 are ready to sell. And Joel and Avram seem to be finding whatever ways they can to stay at United. And obviously, a lot of United fans are not happy about that prospect. Glazers out has been the chant for many, many years now. But as I say, there was a good protest before that Villa game. It was great to see some fan unity. The 1958, the Man United Supporters Trust, the Red Army, who are kind of probably our 3 main kind of fan groups or spokespeople, all kind of got together on this one. And that was the best thing for me, because often there's a lot of infighting within our fans and people don't agree on what to do, the best way forward. So yeah, to see them all come forward. I did retweet a couple of videos on Twitter. If you haven't seen those, go and have a look. There was a good turnout, some interesting chants over there. I don't want to repeat about the Glazers, but yeah, you can go and listen to them over there. But yeah, I think, Jamie, we chatted about it a couple of podcasts ago. I know you kind of almost reluctantly, in a way, said you probably thought Qatar was the better option, saying Sheikh Jassim. There's a little bit more info coming out now. It seems that Sir Jim Ratcliffe is giving the Glazers a bigger option of staying on. He's doing everything wrong as far as I'm concerned. Either his PR people are really, really bad and are sending out all the wrong messages, or he is literally putting together the worst deal. Because it sounds like he's not talking about clearing the debts. He's talking about giving the Glazers an option to stay on. So yeah, there's a lot of our fans now are saying this is not the way we want. I mean, full sale only is the kind of mantra that's being talked about there. I mean, Ashwin, I don't know if you hear anything kind of stateside about the Glazers. We are listed, do have a partial listing out in New York as well. But do you have any kind of preferences from what you've heard from the different bids coming from Ineos, coming from Sheikh Jassim, or what's going on there?
I mean, as an American, I think it's important that the Glazers stay. No, my understanding is, even if, like, with the Ineos bid, even if the Glazers stay, they would not have a controlling stake, right? I mean, that's the entire point.
Oh yeah. Look, whatever happens, whoever, no. I think there was a bit of confusion over this, that people start talking about A shares, B shares. And there was some things I saw on Twitter where people saying, oh, the Glazers are going to sell billions and still be in control of the club. No, that is never going to happen. They may retain some kind of minority shareholding, 10, right. 20%. I think, though, that probably would still give them the right to keep a seat on the board. But yeah, if that kind of scenario was the way and it was Sir Jim Ratcliffe, he would still ultimately have the final say for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's not ideal. But so one thing with the Qatar bid, and I think people need to, I believe the Qatari, this ownership group, I think they bought a club in Spain years back.
It
might have been
wasn't. It
Malaga.
wasn't these guys in particular. It
Yeah,
is
okay.
Marbella in Spain. Oh no, is it Marbella? It's Malaga. Sorry,
Malaga, yeah.
who are like massively mismanaged and are now struggling big time. But
Yeah,
it
and
wasn't these guys in
yeah,
particular. It was some other Qatar group who
yeah,
bought them.
yeah, and it's really hard to like untangle all the Qatar stuff because they're not the same ownership group
Mm.
as PSG, but there's all these connections between them. So it's like, is it actually? It's very weird. So I will say, like, look, having a bunch of money is obviously a huge advantage. But as we're seeing, look at Chelsea. Like, just having
Yeah,
a bunch of
exactly. Yeah.
yeah, just having an owner that's going to come in and spend money doesn't guarantee anything. You want an ownership group that's going to come in and be judicious with their spending on top of providing money, right? Like, and not taking out as the Glazers have done. So I don't know if the Qatar bid is, obviously they have a bunch of money. Sure, that's great. It doesn't guarantee anything. And my understanding from what I've read of the Ineos bid is they have committed to redeveloping Old Trafford, renovating it, whatever you want to call it, making necessary improvements to Old Trafford and the training facility, and that they would also make substantial funds available to Ten Hag in the summer window. Is it ideal if the Glazers stay on in any capacity? No, obviously not. Obviously, we'd love if they leave entirely. But in that scenario, like, I would take that. I think if you can just get the Glazers out of a position where they actually run the club, regardless of whether it's perfect or not, it's significantly better than the situation we find ourselves in. And from everything I have read about the Ineos bid and Jim Ratcliffe, I would assume he's not going to be a blood-sucking vampire on the club like the Glazers have been. He is a fan, apparently. I think he, again, just from what I've read, I don't have a personal relationship with Jim Ratcliffe, which may surprise you. But like, it seems like he would be really, he's interested in actually, returning the club to a standard that it should be at and manage it in a way that it should be managed. He has Nice. He owns Nice in France, right?
Yeah, he owns
Yeah.
Nice, and it can go either way. That, in a way, at least he has some kind of track record experience of running football clubs. Nice have not done particularly well. They have not done badly. They're just, to be honest, around, I think, where they were when he took over. So there's doesn't really go either way there. Whereas, yeah, it's true. Sheikh Jassim, he doesn't have any track record of owning a football club. We don't know what kind of experience he has with that. I mean, both.
And when you give billionaires a new toy, you never know what they think is going to be the right thing to do with it, right? So it's like, it's all a guessing game. It feels like, and look, I can't divorce this part from it. Like, there is something about, like, just as on the pure optics of it, I feel like, yeah, probably Jim Ratcliffe is a better option than the Qatari ownership. Whether that's right or wrong, I don't know enough about them, but obviously Qatar doesn't have a great track record in human rights and all that type of stuff. So there is something there, and I do think, if there are people that prefer a bid from Ratcliffe for those reasons, I think that's understandable. And I get that. Like, it's one thing. Look, I would be lying if I said that I personally find, like, City's ownership situation pretty disgusting. I find PSG's ownership situation pretty disgusting. I would prefer the Ratcliffe scenario, even though it's, even if it involves the Glazers staying, than QSI or whatever exactly entity would be buying us. So that's just me. I think it's reasonable to disagree and feel another way about it, but ultimately, the most important thing is just getting the Glazers out and getting an ownership group that's not going, like, we've read all these. I think even recently I read that, the Glazers have this way of, even if they stay, they can get a 200 million pound credit facility and fund transfers for next summer that way. And it's like, that's cool, but I would rather not have to continuously play, finance games to finance the club. I'd much rather it be sustainable. So getting them out of a controlling stake is ultimately the most important part of any of this.
Yeah, I think we're all agreed on that. We've kind of seen enough of the Glazers now. And yeah, I have to say that in the past, I was never like the biggest critic of them. I never wanted them to take over. I was there at protests when they first showed up. But then when they took over, I said, look, all right, let's see what happens. And Alex Ferguson at the time seemed to be pretty happy, and we were successful initially under them. It all has gone very badly since Alex Ferguson moved on. A lot of bad decisions made in the boardroom, the wrong people, Ed Woodward in particular, in charge of making footballing decisions. That's the kind of thing we need to see the end of. And that's why, after a kind of decade, more or less, of not complete failure, but definitely not the success that Man United fans are used to, we do want to see the back of the Glazers. I mean, I personally am probably more favouring towards the Qatar bid. It's true that we don't really know enough about any of these guys. And until they actually turn up, you don't really know how it goes. Like you say, you see at Chelsea how things can go badly, even though an owner comes in, throws a lot of money into the club. It doesn't, sacking a manager who I think he shouldn't have sacked, bringing in the wrong kind of players. We don't want to see that happening. And I definitely would not want to go down the kind of financial doping route that we see at Manchester City, that we see at PSG. And we don't need to. We've spent masses in the transfer market as it is. I don't really want to see us spending any more than we already have. But I do have a big worry about where all the money for a new stadium comes from. And you said about Ineos, they've not actually said that much officially about the stadium. Whereas the Qataris categorically came out and said, we are ready to 100% buy the club. We're ready to clear all the debts. We're ready to invest in the infrastructure. They said all that pretty openly, whereas Jim Ratcliffe's bid has been a bit kind of unclear about the debts, about the stadium. He's not said much either way. And that's where a lot of fans are now got a bit tetchy, and especially when then apparently he's given the option to the Glazers to stay on and have a seat on the board, whether, they have a minority stake and not that much say or not. A lot of United fans will not be happy to see the Glazers staying in any capacity. And that's why, as I said, the main message of this protest that happened before the Villa game was full sale only. Whoever it may be. And maybe we, and that's the other thing. A lot of things is newspaper rumors. We always talk about the transfer market and how I always say, I don't take notice of 90% of it. It's the same with a lot of this stuff. We don't actually know what Jim Ratcliffe's bid is. Maybe he has made a full bid to buy out the Glazers, and maybe he's only gone and given them this option because he's trying to get ahead in the queue off the Qatari bid by giving them that option to have that kind of extra shareholding and staying there. We don't know. And I don't trust a lot of the stuff coming out in the media. So, we kind of wait and see. But as I said, I was very happy to see a decent turnout at that protest, and the fans making themselves heard is always good. Ultimately, though, the fans, we don't have any say in it. And we just have to wait and see how this plays out. I just hope whatever happens, it happens quickly, because otherwise it starts impacting our kind of summer transfer and what happens over there. I'm sure everybody internally in the club, even going down to like Richard Arnold and John Murtaugh, are kind of waiting to know what is happening for this summer and the manager especially. Then they can start making plans and working on those things. But I think that is probably about the right time for us to wrap up from this show. We might come back after that Brighton game. More likely we'll come out back after West Ham next weekend, see where we're at. And that's good night from me for now. See you on the next one.
Thank you for listening to United Hour. Remember to follow us on Twitter and on Instagram at United_Hour. Please take the time to leave a 5-star review on iTunes or Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. United Hour is brought to you by the Sports Social Network, and our theme song is by Ancient Feelings. To get in touch, please email unitedhour@gmail.com.